Hi everyone, I have Sunny, the digital artist, here with me. And
Hello.
if you like the content, you can like, share, subscribe, and here we are now. So tell us about your journey into digital art, Sunny.
It kind of started slowly. I've always been an artist, and I used to always only do paper and canvas work.
Uh-huh.
And just on work, I started just doodling around on my phone and kind of messing around with it, and just posting it on Facebook and social media just to get myself out there.
Uh-huh.
And originally, the digital art was just basically like brainstorming for like regular art pieces.
Uh-huh.
But over time, it kind of took on a life of its own and did its own thing, and kind of just gradually grew from there.
Did you start selling your prints?
Yeah, luckily, and I've been lucky enough to where like I have almost 2,000 followers on Instagram, and
Uh-huh.
I've been lucky enough to both have shows here in Central Ohio in the
Oh wow.
U.S. And I've also sold prints all over the world to where from people from England and people from Australia, all over the world. So
Nice. Yeah, I remember when I first sold my painting to Germany and I was like so stoked about it. It happened like 12 years ago or something like that, or no, more than that, like 15 years ago maybe. And it was like a really big thing because I couldn't believe that somebody wanted my painting like somewhere else.
yeah,
Um,
it's always a humbling feeling.
yeah. So what are the key skills and programs you've learned in digital art? Um,
Basically the way I use digital art, and I've noticed like talking to other people that kind of everybody does it kind of differently in their own way.
yeah,
But how I started doing it was basically I just have a basic Android phone, so I would have what's called I think Adobe Infinite Painter, which is a free app you get off the Google Play Store. And
uh-huh,
for with Apple, it's basically uh Android version of their Procreate program. And
yeah,
I use that. And before that, I just used just a basic cheap painting program. Any of the ones you get off like the Google Play Store.
right,
And
right.
because the way I create is, I know some people do it differently, and I have gotten into using a little like photographs I take now that I manipulate a little bit, but for the most part, I create digital art the same exact way I create canvas art, which just starts off with a completely blank canvas, just so it's digital, and just kind of start painting that way. So
So it's like really spontaneous and
yeah,
minimal
it's
cost. Yeah.
yeah, and
I
it's completely my process is completely spontaneous, and I never either have a pre-sketch or a pre-idea of what I'm going to do. It's always just blank canvas and just start going and see what happens.
Yeah. I work like that too, but I just like before I used to feel like I would need like some sort of with digital art, like I want to use a certain type of program. But now, since I moved to India after domestic violence, everything I've been doing is like more like the cheapest way to do something, and just like to do something, even if it's not something that I thought that I would do. Just go
Yeah.
with the cheapest way and like just try. So like that's really good that you kept on moving.
Hmm. And
Like
I think that just like what you said is actually kind of can really be correct and a good idea to again, because sometimes actually with the limitations of just the cheapest possible way, I
right.
think that actually that can help your creativity, because I think sometimes people focus too much, especially if they're using digital art, on having the best tablet or getting the better program or everything like that. Because again, the tablet I use is a very old generation, very cheap tablet. And
Yeah, but it comes out, you're coming out with all these really great ideas, even though you're not using anything fancy.
yeah, and I think I think sometimes, at least some of the digital artists I talk to, and some have asked me my kind of advice. I think sometimes they get too caught up in thinking they need a fancier program or a fancier kind of tablet, and sometimes you focus too much on the actual things you're using rather than what you're doing with them. So I think people can get caught up in that sometimes.
What kind of abstract or what kind of abstract art did you do on canvas before you started the digital art?
Basically, it looks pretty much exactly the same as my digital art because I've kind of always worked the exact same way. Which, like for example, if I'm doing a canvas, I'm doing it the exact same way where I start with a blank canvas and just kind of go. And the one thing that I think digital art's helped with is it's helped with really just me becoming. I use all kinds of materials and all kinds of different things,
Yeah, like
and
mixed media.
yeah, and basically like what happened was is the more I started using digital art, about using because using like the acrylic paint things and like chalk and everything, and just seeing how those textures go together,
Uh-huh.
inspired me. Or now I basically work the same exact way, and to where I'll do in the middle of a piece, I'll start with acrylic paint, then I'll switch to like chalk, then I'll go to a pen and I'll move all around all throughout the painting. So
Yeah, I really like your style. I like how it's so spontaneous.
thank you, and I think that's one thing that using the digital art functions I think actually helped me develop that spontaneity because
Um,
when you're just learning how to do art and you're just doing everything canvas or everything paper, sometimes you're thinking about it's like, okay, well, I'm using acrylic paint here, so I have to let it dry for a minute before I put this over it, or I have to you have to wait for something to dry, or have to make sure that the colors mix right or whatever. Like, whereas
yeah,
when you start working digitally, I can put different textures over each other and I don't have to wait for them to dry. So every single idea that I have can come out like right away. And you get to like a
yeah,
really streamlined consciousness of creativity. And what I've learned to do is I learned to basically translate that back to canvas and paper about just learning which things dry faster and which things go better. And but it's really helped develop my process overall.
how have you been commissioned to do a lot of art or any murals or anything?
Yeah, I've done a couple murals here in town, and just one thing at least for me, and I know I have some friends that do a lot more commissions, but
Huh?
because my process is so kind of like unique to myself that I'm kind of iffier on doing commissions personally, just
Yeah, because it
because.
takes away from your own like process. Like it makes it so that, you kind of have to adjust. Like and you don't want to like lose your individuality while you're doing it. Or at least some people work that way. Maybe you feel like that too.
Yeah, very much so. Because I have other friends that can basically 'cause obviously when someone wants to commission you for a painting, they you want to give them kind of what they want, like what the customer wants.
Right.
But the thing is, then I feel that too much. I end up feeling like almost like a graphic designer, to where I'm specifically designing something that someone wants rather than what my own vision is. And I'm just not as comfortable working that way. Some other people can, but I feel much more comfortable if someone like wants a piece of my art. I just say I'll make a few, and if that's
Uh-huh.
something you like, yeah, I kind of would rather you buy something that I create on my own
Uh-huh.
rather than kind of become, because I think if you get too like listening to what people want, then you're not really being yourself as an artist. You're really just kind of being almost like a graphic designer for someone else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. But have you done any types of commissions like where people ask you colors or something like that or any kind of
A few, and like luckily, like I've had a couple that have been they've been nice to where they've said, "Hey, I really like these few pieces of yours," and I'd see the pieces that they really like,
uh-huh.
and I would make something based along that color scheme or kind of like that, and I didn't mind doing that as much. And I've done a few where they give me like a picture of like either their child or like a family member, and I do like an abstract my version of that, and I
Do
can
you,
do that to a certain.
Do you charge more for commissions or?
Yeah, a little bit because again,
Yeah,
since it's not necessarily, I'm doing, and I luckily, um, I sell a decent amount of my work, and so I always say it's like, well, if I'm, taking time to do this piece of art for you, then I'm not doing art that could be selling otherwise. So I kind of I'm going to charge a little more just because it's taking time out of what I would normally do, kind of to do that for them.
right. Um, how do you maintain a balance with your art schedule and the rest of your life and your obligations?
Well, and that's another thing that I have to say that I really like about digital art that's kind of really allowed me to be 2 or 3 times more creative than I could be without it. Is that the one thing about digital art is like when I'm painting on a tablet, half the time I can actually do that while I'm actually at my day job. And because when we have downtime, you can just turn on the tablet and I paint everything with my finger on my tablet. And you can
Right,
just I can paint right then to whereas, when you're doing paper or canvas work, that's you have to go get the supplies and it takes a lot more time to actually, physically do that. And
right,
so I'm able to create 2 or 3 times as much with just doing digital work and develop twice as fast because I think for anyone that's looking for advice about developing their artistic like vision, one of the things I say that even using digital art in any kind of way is helpful is because the one thing to become to develop and evolve as an artist is you have to just create. You have to keep creating and keep doing it and just keep doing more and more. And when I do the digital paintings, which I'm able to basically do at least 5 to 6 digital paintings a week. To where is like if I would need the money, the materials, and the time to do like that many canvas pieces, it's just impossible to do 5 to 7 canvas pieces a week and still have, a job, a life, and responsibilities and all that. Whereas you can do the digital work a lot faster and it's
uh-huh,
cheaper.
right,
And but doing that work, even if they're just a few pieces, even if they don't look anything like your other work, it still develops you as an artist because you're thinking about composition, you're thinking about colors that go together that's going to bleed into your other work. And it just
right.
helps you develop 3 times as fast as you would without it.
So, what were your biggest challenges when you started doing the digital art? And now that you said like how it was
Well,
more,
I think, yeah. Well, like for me, yeah, I think the biggest challenges were just figuring out, basically how to make it work for you. Because obviously, for me, with my style, it's still kind of like a neo-expressionist kind of realistic style.
uh-huh,
And it was really about like when you first like start with any kind of digital program, I mean, for lack of a better term, it like looks kind of really digital and not like a painting. And
right,
just learning about, especially like for example, just opacity when you're like, when you're kind of developing like the little lines and everything you use,
right,
just learning how to make it feel like it's real and feel like it's just kind of alive. That was my biggest challenge. And that's been really throughout my entire career. Because the one thing is about if you go back through my digital work, which I have posted on Facebook and social media, is I would post everything I have done. So,
okay,
you can go back 2 and 3 years and see work that I've done when I was just learning how to like make the color combinations work and make the lines work to make it look like it's kind of real and alive
right,
and to develop that over time. And that's been like the biggest challenge, I think, is just to find. And another thing I think about digital art, which when you start off with, I think sometimes it takes a minute to find your voice within it because because, and I don't do this, but if you want to, you can go back. Like when you do lines or colors, you can do back and you can kind of reverse it so it doesn't have to be there.
right,
And sometimes I think people can use that to make it look too perfect because they just kind of
right,
keep going back and redoing it. And what I've seen in my process, which goes a lot like hand in hand with my regular art, because like if I'm doing a big canvas painting and I don't like a line or it's like doesn't look right, I'll just take paint and paint over it. And just
uh-huh,
like in that what you do. And once I started doing those same techniques in the digital work about making
uh-huh,
sure it's not looking exactly uniform like it's supposed to. That's what started making it feel like it was like real and lived in. So, and
Okay.
that's the biggest thing, is like kind of learning how to do that and finding your own voice. When
Within
with
the,
digital work, yeah, with digital work, it can be so easy to kind of make it so uniform and like perfect looking,
right.
that finding your own voice and kind of basically mucking it up and screwing it up to make it look kind of cool, that takes a minute, I think.
Now that there's all these new programs out there with the AI art and everything, um, what would be your advice to somebody who's jumping into digital art and there's all these programs, like how has the digital landscape changed over the years, and how has it made an impact on you and your art?
Yeah, and this is like a really interesting point, and kind of like the interesting point about digital art right now is it's changing so fast, even as we speak.
Right,
Because like the biggest argument with me when I started like doing digital art, and like everybody would say, it's like, oh, it's like, well, your paintings look like they're real. But they would some, and still this day, when you talk to someone about digital art, half the time they'll act like it's not real art, or like it's like, well, it's good, but it's not on paper or canvas. And
right,
then when I would make paper and canvas pieces for people, they would say, it's like, oh, that looks exactly like your digital work. It's like, well,
right,
yeah, because it's made the same way.
right,
And but there's this understanding that somehow that digital art, you didn't have to work as hard, even though it when because no one's ever done it, they didn't realize sometimes you have to work twice as hard to make it look as good as like a real painting, and it's actually
right,
harder to do on canvas. And with AI, that's going to confuse everything even more. And my advice would be, at the same time, like, I think one of the worst things in the art community can do is like be scared of digital art. It's like,
right,
because there's a decent amount of the artistic community that just puts like canvas and paperwork just on a rung above digital art. I mean, even to this day, I still have a heck of a time sometimes getting galleries locally here in Ohio interested in showing my digital prints, even if they're on canvas, because I just somehow feel that digital art's not as important. When really, when you look at it, it's just the next evolution of what art is becoming. And
right,
it's the same way of people that's it's like, no, I'm still gonna be like I used to be and just do everything on canvas and everything on this, is the same way, in my estimation, of when like they invented the electric guitar, like back
right,
in, the 50s, because there's all these people that said the electric guitar is bad, it's not nowhere as near as good as the acoustic. But the thing is, like, a guy like Jimi Hendrix comes with by and plays the electric guitar and makes it create art that you could never do with an acoustic guitar. It's not the same, but it's different. And
right,
I think that you can do digitally that you can't do the other way, and it's the next evolution of art. Now with AI, and I've started to work this into some of my recent work, because just in my recent work in the last 2 or 3 months, since they've the AI has become more prevalent, I like the challenge, and I've used more photographs in my work where I'm actually painting over photographs now.
okay,
Because the interesting thing is, besides just me getting bored of just doing like blank paintings as well, I'm interested in the challenge of what we're going forward with people being able to make, basically AI art, to where they can just type, so it's like, hey, make a painting of this, and it just kind of automatically makes it for you. That I'm interested in how we're going to do that, because I was in my mind, I thought it's like, well, I see these AI. You've seen like a few of these like AI created paintings, and
yeah,
the interesting thing is, I started saying, it's like, well, what if I use these photographs to kind of make it almost look like I'm attempting to do one of those, but then then I'm starting to do stuff, and I'm still kind of figuring out how to do things in a new, unique way,
right.
and kind
And
of keep.
every different evolution of art is like something to bring to the table and something new to learn.
Yeah. And that's the thing, that with AI, with every single digital evolution of art, it's all it is a different tool for each artist to use. And it's just foolish. Like, for instance, with music, and you have like you have samplers now, and you can make music. You can make a record on an iPhone.
Right,
Think about it. And some people say it's like, well, you know, you don't have to like learn how to play a drum set. You don't have to have a piano in your house. But then you listen to some of this music that people create that way. It's fantastic.
Right.
And they could use different tools. Does that make that song any less good? No. You still dance to it, so it's the same thing. It's just you're just using different things. That's all.
Yeah. So do you do a lot of collaborating with any other artists, or have you before?
Yeah, yeah. I had a wonderful experience about a year and a half ago, or no, 2 years ago now. It was 2 years ago in June. I did a collaborative show with a local friend of mine here named Phil Adams. He's a photographer from Columbus, Ohio.
Oh,
And
nice.
he's a photographer, and he would basically do he has photographs of like textures and kind of like abstract photographs.
Uh-huh.
And I would basically take his abstract photographs and I would paint a little bit over them, but still you'd see what his shapes were. And we
Uh-huh.
did a collaborative show together, and that was fun.
Oh, nice. Very good.
Yeah.
So can you throw out all the social media platforms like that you use so that people can follow you?
Yeah, sure. On Facebook, you
Yeah,
can
on
find
Facebook or Instagram or
on on Facebook. I'm SonnyLeeEl, SonnyLee, and then EL, capital EL. And on Instagram, I'm actually at Chupacabra of Love.
okay.
Like, and then I think on I just started on Threads too, so I just posted on that when it opened up.
On which
So
one?
on Threads, like the new version of Twitter. I'm not on old Twitter. I'm not on old Twitter.
Threads? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's the new one that Facebook started. It's basically the Facebook's version of Twitter that they just started 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. I'm so bad at Twitter.
Yeah, I
I
don't I don't
use
really use Twitter, but I'm trying this new one. But I'm definitely
yeah.
everything's on Instagram and Facebook though.
Okay, okay. And you managed to create a consistent audience that buys your paintings. That's great. That's really great.
And
So
just for anyone, just really quickly on that, the best reason and the easiest way you could do that is for anybody out there that wants to like just extend themselves in the art, or if they just want to express themselves, I highly suggest it because again, I was shy and I was not an artist that was gonna go out of my way to go around to galleries with like my portfolio and really like try to get in fancy galleries.
uh-huh.
But what I did was I got on Facebook and I joined all these kind of art groups. There's like art groups locally to my area, but plus just art groups from all over the world. Just all these art pages and online art galleries, like you post stuff. And I just started, and every work I post, and now I usually do 3 to 5 a week, but I'll post them in 20 different groups.
Right.
And just when you do that, two things. One, for someone that's maybe shy out there that is somewhat uncomfortable with like, just learning how to like put your art out there and have it be seen and possibly critiqued. I noticed just blindly doing it in Facebook groups is a lot less intimidating than like walking into a gallery with like, your portfolio and having someone look at it and say it's like this is good or this is bad. But you'll be surprised how quick if you just share your stuff out there, how much you'll find people that like you, find actual fans that like your work, and then also find other people to talk with about art and actually sometimes collaborate with. And I highly suggest for anybody out there that's looking to just expand their artistic, just get themselves out there artistically, join as many Facebook groups as possible that like art and just post in as many groups as possible. And then in some of those groups, some of them are here locally in the US, some of them are in Europe, they're all over the world. And that's how I have, you know, luckily for me, I have a lot of people that like my work and I've been able to sell it all over the world. And it's all because of that.
Wow, that's really incredible. That's really incredible. So, what are your upcoming new projects that we have to look forward to? With you mentioned your new styles, using more for photography, and
Yeah.
do you have any other new upcoming projects that you're
Yeah.
really excited
Basically,
about?
for the next 6 months to a year, my like I'm working on possibly also actually receiving a grant here in Ohio where I'd be able to actually take some of my new work, like a series of 10 or 12, and print them off in relatively large formats, like almost like they're the size of a wall,
Oh,
and
wow.
show them in kind of like that context to where, because I've had a couple of galleries that are interested in possibly doing a solo show of where there's like 5 or 10 of my pieces that I've recently done. They're just in very large scale that would be like, kind of taking up a wall and kind of immersive in that way. And
Wow.
but I'm also really, again, like I was saying, since I'm starting to work with photography and other mediums within, and still make it look obviously like my paintings and stuff, but I'm really looking at expanding the media in which I work with, possibly
Okay.
going from like I'm working with photography, and I'm possibly even looking into maybe doing a little bit of animation or doing something with music and visuals. So I'm really just trying to expand everything because the one thing where I see art going in the future is just the idea of the idea of painting and art just being on paper or canvas, I
Uh-huh.
think's rapidly kind of going by the wayside because I've seen a lot of new people that are doing a lot of very interesting things with like video installations and light
Okay.
installations actually mixed with the art and stuff like that. And so
Uh-huh.
I think it's just going much more multimedia and much more kind of digital and video based and kind of just mixing everything together more.
Wow. So all this is like really interesting. Do you have to be in school to get a grant, or can you just do it without being in school?
There's a bunch of different ways you can do it. For example, the grants that I'm looking at is here where I live at in Columbus, Ohio, in the USA. The city of Columbus actually gives out grants to artists in the city,
Oh,
and
wow.
basically what we did was I was actually recruited to by a couple friends who had already applied for grants, who are local artist friends here that I've been in shows with, and they said like, hey, well, you should apply, and basically you just go online to the like arts council, and again there's all kinds of art councils all around the world that you can apply to, like wherever you are usually. And you basically just go in that you fill out a form and you say it's like, well, this is what this is how much money I would need, this is for what I would need it for. And like for example, for me it was for mostly printing costs, for the actual
Uh-huh.
cost of actually printing these large pieces. And yeah, you basically just give them your plan, and then they decide how much money they can give you and if they want to give it to you. And so that's like kind of how that works.
Kind of like a Kickstarter, but it's like it with real instead of going online, you're doing it
Yeah,
in
and
person.
I'm lucky because the city I live in now, Columbus, Ohio, even though it's not a very large, it's only like the 30th or like 25th, 30th largest city in the United States. But
Uh-huh.
it does have it does support the artistic community, or at least it tries to, more than a lot of cities within the U.S. So
That's really great to hear. I've really enjoyed having you on and learning about all these different things that how you've been approaching digital art and how you went from canvas to digital and your journey. I hope to have you on again soon and maybe in a couple of months there'll be some more developments and we can have you on again.
oh, totally. Thank you so much for having me, Sophie. And again, just thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Sunny. So I'll see
Okay.
you.
Yep. See you. Bye.
Much love.
Yep.